Hi y'all, it's Russell, back with another episode of the WellCast, Navigating Student Wellbeing. This is episode 5, Harm Reduction, and I'm here with...
Sanjana, and I'm the Wells Policy Intern.
So, as a policy intern, what are some of your tasks at the Well?
Yeah, so currently I'm working on a project. My job here is to reassess the Wells Narcan policy and then see where the needs are and what the need is from the student, and then improve those policies and make policy changes.
Awesome. So, first things first, what is harm reduction?
Yeah, so harm reduction is basically a way to reduce the health consequences associated with risky behaviors. So, an example of harm reduction would be using a seatbelt when you're driving, and using a condom when you're having safe sex.
I see. And another form of harm reduction, which we have in front of us, is narcan. We also have fentanyl test strips, and we have our little narcan kit that we offer at the Well. So, what are some... What is narcan?
Yeah, so narcan is basically an opioid antagonist. Basically what that means, it rapidly reverses an opiate overdose. So basically how it works is the narcan molecules compete with opiate molecules to bind with your opiate receptors. So instead of the opiate receptors, narcan binds to opiate receptors. I said opiate receptors. Instead of the opiate molecules, narcan binds to the opiate receptors instead, so effectively blocking the opiate from acting for a while. But once the narcan wears off, you can have another overdose again. So it's important to go see a medical professional.
I see.
Every time.
So yeah, narcan is a form of harm reduction, and like Sanjana said, some other forms of harm reduction are wearing a seatbelt, wearing a condom during sex and everything. And another form of harm reduction is our fentanyl test strip right here. And could you talk a little bit about what a fentanyl test strip is?
Yeah, so a fentanyl test strip basically checks whether there's fentanyl in your drug supply. So for those of you who may not know what fentanyl is a potent synthetic opioid that's being found increasingly in substances in Riverside County and the state of California. So fentanyl is actually the biggest contributor to opioid overdose deaths in the state of California and Riverside itself. So it's really important to make sure that your drug supply is safe and your substances are safe by testing for fentanyl to make sure you don't accidentally ingest fentanyl.
So something I wanted to address is the stigma that surrounds harm reduction and substance use in general. Could we talk a little bit about the stigma surrounding substance use?
Yeah, so the main driver of stigma when it comes to substance use is because substance use is criminalized. It is illegal, so people don't feel comfortable sharing if they're using substances because they feel scared that they're either going to be arrested or they're going to get fired from work or face repercussions from the university. But also there's another aspect, the social aspect. This is where we as students come in. So socially, substance use is taboo. So there's certain language that is thrown around that stigmatizes substance users. And so an example of this would be a druggie, junkie, those are very stigmatizing. And so for someone to feel who is using to feel comfortable, if people are using that language around them, they can feel guilty or shameful about about substance use, and it could prevent them from seeking help or seeking resources, harm reduction resources, specifically fentanyl test strips and narcan.
Exactly. Stigma is something that inhibits students from, not only students, but just people in general, from seeking the resources that they need, whether that be with sexual health, whether that be with mental health, whether that be with substance use and everything. Stigma inhibits someone from not being scared of seeking out help and everything. And regardless of whether or not it's criminalized or not, like, we are all human. We deserve these things to be put in place for our well-being. It's needed for the betterment of, like, us as a whole. That's why it really starts with us, and like you said, the language that we use, whether that be druggie, junkie, it starts off with the stigma that we put in place, and realizing that the stigma is a big reason why a lot of people aren't getting the resources that they need. So what are some statistics that are prevalent in or worth mentioning about substance use?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about overdose because that's what Narcan is for and fentanyl test strips. So in 2021, according to the California Department of Public Health, there were 6,000 overdose-related deaths. And then you just put that 2 years later, that number increases by almost 1,000. So in 2023, what was just last year, 7,385 people died from an overdose. And so 6,000 plus out of those 7,000 died from fentanyl lacing.
And this is in Riverside?
No, this is in California as a whole. And so fentanyl overdose, so that is one of the biggest factors over the past 3 years that public health officials have seen that that is increasing the amount of people who are overdosing and increasing the amount of deaths caused by overdose. And so that's why fentanyl test strips and Narcan are really important. One, because Narcan can reverse an opiate overdose, but two, fentanyl test strips can help someone stay safe before they even get to the point of overdose. So they know that there is fentanyl in their substances.
Or there isn't fentanyl in their substances, rather.
There is or isn't. So fentanyl lacing is very prevalent.
Yeah, so that they would know, so they would know not to use it.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, like we discussed, based on the statistics, this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, not only in California, but in the nation as a whole. And that's why we as a society need to address the stigmas that we put in place, because this is becoming a problem, and we need to realize that harm reduction is something that we need to focus on, whether that be fentanyl test strips, the distribution of it, Narcan, distributing Narcan to people who need it. For example, I know it's really good to carry Narcan if you go to a rave. There's a lot of substance use surrounding raves and rave culture and everything, so it's important to put into place things that can protect you from certain events to transpire. So, what are some on-campus resources in terms of harm reduction?
Yeah, so the first resource is at the Student Health Center. You can get Narcan for a small $5 fee if you have UC SHIP. However, if you don't have UC SHIP, the Well does offer free Narcan and fentanyl test strips to all UCR students, and you can come out to one of our trainings or do the online training to get access to Narcan and fentanyl test strips.
Yes, it's important to be trained on how to use Narcan and administer it properly so that it works properly. And in terms of the training, yes, you can do the online training, which is located at the well.ucr.edu, or you can attend one of our in-person trainings, which is held by Golden Arches, and stay tuned on their Instagram page for any updates on that. So, thank you, Sanjana, for coming onto the podcast. We were able to talk about fentanyl test strips, Narcan, and harm reduction in general. We were able to address the stigma and why it's so important to address the stigma, because we as students and people in general need these resources for our well-being.
Thank you for having me, Russell.
Of course. And so come by to Hub 248 if you have any questions. You can also come by for a grab and go. You can grab up to 5 free items ranging from condoms, cleaning supplies such as wipes, hand sanitizer, and menstrual products. We also have our tea station. And visit the well.ucr.edu for more info and more resources. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.